I froze in the doorway the moment I saw her, a silhouette standing exactly where no one should have been. Her hands rested on the handle of a suitcase, her posture confident, almost entitled, as if she'd been waiting for me to return, as if the home I had built with silent years and aching bones somehow belonged to her too. For a moment, all I could hear was the faint rustle of the plastic bags hanging from my arms, and the echo of something breaking quietly inside me. Did you even ask the owner of this house for permission? I didn't raise my voice, but the words sliced through the room with the precision of a cold blade. Her head snapped up, and when her eyes met mine, the first thing I saw wasn't guilt. It was annoyance, as if my presence, in my own home, had interrupted her plans. Chloe blinked twice, that polished little expression she used whenever she was caught doing something she shouldn't, then forced a laugh. Light. Plastic. Too thin to hide anything real. Ava, I didn't hear you come in. Her tone was breezy, almost musical, as if we were discussing afternoon tea instead of the fact that she had entered my house uninvited. Not just entered, but planted herself, her belongings, her intentions, right in my living room. But I didn't step farther inside. I didn't soften. Something inside me had hardened the moment I saw the suitcases. Two of them, sleek, expensive, the kind she bragged about online. I asked you a question. My voice was firmer now, the kind that makes people stop under its weight. Her eyes flickered, just for a second, but I caught it, the way her confidence faltered, the way she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear to buy herself a moment. Then she smiled again, a small, condescending curve of her lips. Ava, please, don't exaggerate. Dion and I just need to stay for a few days. The renovations are unbearable. We figured it wouldn't be a problem, since you live alone and… That was it. That sentence. The one everyone thought I couldn't hear anymore. You live alone. As if loneliness meant availability, as if silence meant emptiness, as if my home, my peace, was a spare room waiting for whoever found their own life temporarily inconvenient. I walked inside, finally setting the grocery bags on the table. The cans hit the wood with a heavy clatter that made her flinch. Good. She should flinch. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't bending. I wasn't smoothing things over. I wasn't being the quiet mother, the generous host, the convenient solution. I was standing in my own home, feeling the pulse in my fingertips like a heartbeat demanding to be heard. Does Dion know you're here? I asked. The question wasn't really a question. It was a mirror, a truth I already saw forming. Chloe sighed dramatically. Of course he knows. It was actually his idea. He'll be here later with the rest of our stuff. There it was, the piece that made my breath settle heavy in my chest. He didn't call. He didn't ask. He didn't even warn me. My son, the boy I raised alone, the man I sacrificed years for, had decided my home was an emergency shelter he could access without permission. I stared at Chloe's suitcases again. Shiny, perfect. A declaration, not a request. And then I said the words she did not expect. You shouldn't have come here without asking me. Her smile vanished. And before she could respond, before she could shape her irritation into another polite excuse, I heard the click of a key entering the lock behind me. Dion was here. And what he said the moment he stepped inside changed everything. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more emotional life stories. His words echoed in the room like a confession he had been holding back for far too long. I didn't mean for it to happen, he whispered, eyes locked on mine, trembling as if he already knew I wouldn't believe him. I didn't respond. I just stood there, frozen, watching him struggle to breathe under the weight of his own guilt. It was almost pathetic. Almost. He paced back and forth, rubbing his palms together, glancing toward the door as though the walls themselves were closing in. But I didn't move. I didn't blink. I wanted him to feel the silence, the tension, the consequences of everything he thought he'd kept hidden. Finally, he stopped and looked at me. You weren't supposed to find out like this, he said. I raised an eyebrow. But I did. He swallowed hard. His Adam's apple jerked nervously. That message wasn't meant for you, he murmured. And yet, I replied softly, it ended up right in my hands. His shoulders dropped. Defeat seeped into his posture. He knew there was nowhere left to run. Just, tell me what you want me to do, he said, voice cracking at the edges. You think I want something from you? I asked. He nodded slowly, like a child waiting for a punishment. I took one step closer. He took 2 steps back. You broke something, I said. Not accidentally, not unknowingly. You chose it. Every lie, every excuse, every moment you thought I wasn't paying attention. Those were decisions you made. He flinched like the truth hit him harder than a slap. I thought, he started, but his voice faded, swallowed by the tension in the room. You thought I would never find out. I finished for him. He nodded again. For a moment, neither of us spoke. There was only the soft hum of the ceiling fan and the uneven rhythm of his breathing. He wiped at his eyes. Frustration, fear, maybe regret. But none of it mattered now. I walked past him, opened the window, and let the cold breeze cut through the heavy air. He turned to me, eyes wide. Are you leaving? No, I answered calmly. I want you to sit and tell me everything, every detail, every truth you've been too afraid to say. He hesitated, gripping the back of the chair like it was his last piece of courage. You'll hate me, he whispered. That depends, I said, settling into my seat. On how much you've been hiding. He finally sat down, taking a shaky breath. There was someone else, he confessed. I didn't blink. I didn't look away. Go on. And it wasn't just once. He looked broken, shame dripping from every word. For the first time, I saw the truth behind the guilt he had tried so desperately to mask. I leaned forward, voice low, steady, and cold. Then you'd better start talking, I said. Because this time, I'm listening. He stared at his hands, as if the truth might be carved somewhere between his fingers. I didn't plan for any of it, he muttered. Stop explaining, I said quietly. Just tell me. His throat tightened. It started months ago. I leaned back, keeping my expression still, unreadable. He took a deep breath. She wasn't supposed to matter, he continued. It was just attention. Someone who laughed at my jokes. Someone who made me feel important. I let out a slow breath. So, your solution was betrayal. He winced. I didn't think of it that way. That's because you didn't think at all. His eyes snapped up to mine, but he couldn't hold my gaze for long. His guilt was too heavy, too loud. He pressed his hands against his forehead. I tried to end it. I swear I did. But she kept what? I asked sharply. He hesitated. She kept showing up, calling, waiting for me, and you kept choosing her. His silence was the confirmation he was too cowardly to say aloud. You didn't stop, I said. He shook his head. No. A bitter laugh escaped my lips. Not from humor, just exhaustion. How many times? He whispered the number. I froze. Not because I didn't expect it, but because it was worse than I imagined. You want honesty? He asked quietly, almost desperately. This is me trying. You're not trying, I replied. You're finally cornered. He closed his eyes, chest rising and falling rapidly. I didn't want to lose you, he whispered. Then why was losing me worth the risk? His lips trembled. He didn't answer. He couldn't. For a moment, neither of us moved. The room felt too small, the air too thin. He looked like he was fighting himself, like every truth he had buried was forcing its way out. I kept telling myself I'd fix everything before you found out, he said. And you waited too long, I replied. He nodded, eyes glistening. Yes. I stood up slowly. He panicked. Please, don't leave, he said, rising to his feet. I'm not leaving, I said. But I won't stand in front of you if all you can offer me is lies. His voice cracked. I'm telling you the truth now. Because you don't have a choice anymore. He stepped closer, but I held up my hand. Stay there, I warned. He stopped immediately, fear tightening every muscle in his body. Is there more? I asked. He hesitated too long. My stomach dropped. There is, I whispered. Say it. He swallowed hard. She wasn't the only one. The world slowed. My mind went silent, Empty, cold, sharp. I looked at him like I was seeing a stranger. He took a step back from his own confession, as though afraid of the words he just released. How many? My voice didn't sound like mine. It sounded steadier, deadlier. He shivered. I don't know. I stared at him, and for the first time, he couldn't look. Away. Then sit down, I said, my voice turning to ice. Because now, I whispered, we're not done. He lowered himself into the chair like a man walking toward his own execution. For a moment, the room was so quiet I could hear the clock ticking, 1 second at a time, slicing through the air. I didn't sit yet. I wanted him to feel the weight of what he had just admitted. Look at me, I said. He lifted his eyes slowly, and I hated that I still recognized the man I once trusted, yet somehow didn't know at all. You said you don't know how many, I began. Explain that. His breathing turned uneven. It wasn't relationships. It was moments, mistakes, things I didn't mean to turn into anything. Mistakes don't multiply on their own, I said. You fed them. He wiped his palms on his jeans, trying to gather words that could make any of this sound less monstrous. They couldn't. I finally sat across from him, folding my hands calmly. But inside I felt like glass, transparent, fragile, and one breath away from shattering. Start with the first one, I said. He stared at the floor. It was someone I met by accident. I didn't think she'd remember me. But she did. He paused. She always smiled at me, and you wanted that smile to be yours, even if it meant losing mine. He flinched. No. Yes. I don't know. I was lonely. I let that word hang between us. Lonely. What an easy excuse. What a convenient shield for a guilty man. So loneliness pushed you into multiple arms? I asked quietly. He nodded, ashamed. I'm not proud of who I became. You became someone by making choices. Over and over, he shut his eyes. Regret twisted his expression. But regret is always late. Regret always arrives after the damage is done. Never before. How long has this been happening? I asked. He hesitated. Too long. Far too long. Tell me the truth, I said sharply. Or get out. His voice broke. A year. My hands tightened. A year. 12 months. 365 days of secrets, while he smiled at me like nothing was wrong. You said she wasn't the only one, I continued. Were these all the same kind of moments? He swallowed. No. My heart dropped. What does that mean? He spoke so softly, I almost didn't hear him. One of them wanted more. I stared at him. More? Like what? He swallowed again. Like a future. She asked me to choose. A cold wave passed through me, but I didn't show it. I blinked slowly, keeping my expression steady, controlled. And what? I whispered. Did you choose? His entire face collapsed. I chose you, I swear. I told her no. I leaned forward. Not because you loved me. You chose me because I was safer. He broke. That's not true. It is. And you know it. He covered his face with his hands. I didn't mean to let it get that far, but you let it, I said. You let everything get this far. He shook his head violently. I ended it, but did she accept that? I pressed. His silence was another confession. My chest tightened. You told her no, I said, but she didn't let go. He nodded slowly. She threatened to tell you. I inhaled sharply. And when did this happen? His answer came out like a death sentence. A week ago. A week. 7 days. While I was living normally, laughing, sleeping beside him, he was hiding from a truth ready to explode. I leaned back, feeling my pulse thundering in my ears. Is she still trying to reach you? He didn't answer, which meant yes. My voice softened. Not gentle, but deadly calm. Then we're not dealing with a mistake anymore, I said. He looked up, trembling. We're dealing with someone, I whispered, who thinks she still has a claim on you. And the worst part? I had a feeling she wasn't done. Not even close. He didn't move. He didn't breathe. The moment I said she still believed she had a claim on him, something inside him cracked, like my words forced him to face a truth he'd been hiding even from himself. I sat there quietly, watching him unravel. Is she still contacting you? I repeated, slower this time. His lips parted, but no sound came out. Silence. Thick, heavy, guilty silence. Your phone, I said. Bring it here. He hesitated. That hesitation was louder than any confession he could have spoken. Now, I said. He stood up, his movements stiff, almost robotic. He walked toward the bedroom, and I listened, not to his steps, but to the fear leaking out of his breathing. He returned with his phone held like it weighed 1,000 pounds. He placed it in my hand without looking at me. I unlocked it with the passcode I had known for years. The screen lit up, and instantly, a message banner flashed across the top. You can't avoid me forever. My blood turned cold. I looked up at him, and he instantly stepped back, as if the distance might soften the blow. When was the last time she texted you? I asked, holding the phone up. He looked like he might faint. This morning. I inhaled deeply, letting the truth settle. The room seemed to shrink around us. You let this go on, I said. You let her linger. You let her believe there was still something. I didn't respond, he whispered. I swear I didn't. And that's supposed to comfort me? I shot back. You created the fire, and now you're proud you didn't add more fuel? He rubbed his forehead, defeated. I thought she'd stop. People like her don't stop, I said. They escalate. He sank back into the chair. I don't want her. I don't want any of them. I just want you. That's not for you to want anymore, I replied. Not until I decide if you deserve anything. His face twisted in pain. But I didn't soften. Not now. Not when every truth was unraveling faster than he could lie to himself. What does she want? I asked. He swallowed. She wants us to be together. And you told her no. Yes, and she didn't accept it. No. I nodded slowly, my mind pulling pieces together. She wasn't angry. She wasn't jealous. She was invested. Dangerously invested. What exactly did she threaten? I asked carefully. He hesitated again. Another confession wrapped in silence. Say it, I pressed. All of it. His voice trembled. She said, if I didn't choose her, she would tell you everything, every detail. I leaned back. That wasn't shocking. I expected that, but something still wasn't adding up. That's not all, I said. What else? He looked up at me, eyes filled with a kind of fear I hadn't seen before. She said she'd show up, he murmured. My stomach tightened. Show up? Where? He closed his eyes, ashamed. Here, the air left my lungs. She threatened to come to our door? He nodded. And you didn't tell me? I whispered. I didn't want to scare you. You should have, I said. My voice was ice. I should have been scared. He reached out timidly, but I pulled my hand away. There's more, he said suddenly. I froze. More, he nodded. And his next words weren't quiet. They weren't hesitant. They were terrified. She said she was done waiting, he whispered. She said, she's coming today. The room tilted. My heart slammed. A cold primal instinct washed over me. Today? I repeated. Yes. He wasn't lying. I could see it in his shaking hands, his pale face, the way his eyes kept darting toward the front door. And somewhere deep inside me, something darker awakened. If she was coming, then the real story hadn't even begun yet. The moment he said, she's coming today, the entire room shifted. Like the air thickened, like something invisible stepped inside with us. I stood there, perfectly still, every muscle tight. What time? I asked. I don't know, he whispered. She didn't say. I stared at him, studying the tremble in his hands, the panic flickering behind his eyes. This wasn't guilt anymore. This was fear. Real fear. Why today? I asked. What changed? He swallowed hard. I blocked her last night. My eyes widened a fraction. So she thinks you're ignoring her, he nodded. And she thinks you're ignoring her for me. Another nod. A cold realization slid down my spine. That's why she's coming here, I murmured. She wants to confront the problem. He sank onto the couch, burying his face in his hands. I didn't want you caught in this. You didn't want me caught in the consequences of your choices, I corrected sharply. But here we are. He didn't argue. He couldn't. The silence between us wasn't empty. It was loaded, ready to explode. I walked slowly toward the window, pushing the curtain aside with 2 fingers. Outside, everything looked painfully normal. But normal was a lie. A ticking clock. How far is she willing to go? I asked without turning around. She told me, he said, voice shaking, that she doesn't lose. I closed my eyes. A woman who refuses to lose is a woman who refuses to walk away. Dangerous. Obsessive. Unpredictable. When she threatened to tell me everything, I said, "Why didn't you just let her?" Because I was scared. Of losing me? Yes. Not scared of losing yourself? He lifted his head slowly. I already did, he whispered. I didn't answer. Not because I didn't have words, but because nothing I said could make this moment less devastating. A sudden loud knock shattered the silence. Sharp, hard, 3 hits. We both froze. His face drained of color. Instantly. She wouldn't. She would, I said. And she did. He stood up too fast, nearly stumbling. I raised a hand, warning him to stay back. The knock came again, this time slower, more deliberate, like she wanted us to feel each second of it. My heartbeat thudded in my ears, but my mind stayed unnervingly calm. Do not open that door, I said quietly. He nodded, backing away. His breath turned shallow. The third knock wasn't a knock at all. It was a scrape. Her fingers dragged across the door, slow enough to be heard from where we stood. A chill sliced through me. He whispered, "What is she doing?" "She wants us to know she's not leaving." The scraping stopped. Silence. Except, I could hear breathing. Her breathing. Right outside. Close. I stepped forward, stopping just 1 meter from the door. "Don't," he said weakly. "Please don't go near it." "She came here for a reaction," I murmured. "I won't give her one," but my pulse hammered against my ribs. "She's going to keep trying," I said. "She wants to be let in." His voice cracked. "Then what do we do?" I turned to him slowly. "You," I said, "are going to finally tell me everything she believes she has over you." His eyes widened. "Because if she's at our door," I whispered, "then she thinks she has leverage." He sank onto the couch again, breathing hard. "There's something I didn't tell you," he said. My stomach knotted. "What?" I asked. He closed his eyes. "She didn't just threaten to tell you," he whispered. A pause. "She threatened to show you." My skin prickled. "Show me what?" I asked. He opened his eyes, and I saw the truth inside them before he spoke. "The videos," he said. And just like that, the story took a darker turn. For a moment, I didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't breathe. Videos. The word echoed in my mind like a hollow, sinking thud. My voice came out quiet. Too quiet. "What videos?" He didn't answer immediately. His chest rose and fell with short, frantic breaths. His fingers dug into the couch cushion like he needed something to anchor him to reality. "Tell me," I said again, sharper now. He flinched. "There were nights," he whispered, "when things happened. She recorded them." My stomach twisted painfully. "You let her record you? It wasn't like that," he said quickly. "I didn't know at first." "Don't lie to me," I snapped. He looked at me, guilt written so deeply into his face, it almost looked permanent. "She told me later," he admitted. "She said she liked having memories." "Memories," I repeated, the word acidic on my tongue. "Of you," he nodded miserably. I felt a coldness spread through my limbs. Not anger, not heartbreak, something else. A deeper betrayal, a deeper violation. A knock, soft, almost playful, echoed through the door again. We both froze. "She's listening," I whispered. He nodded slowly. "She knows we're not opening." I moved closer to the door, not to face her, but to listen. A faint, steady sound on the other side. Breathing. She was still there. I turned back to him. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "Because I didn't want you to hate me," he said, voice cracking. "That decision isn't yours," I replied. "You don't get to hide truth to protect yourself." He dropped his head, defeated. "She threatened to send them to you," he continued. "To everyone we know, to my coworkers, to my family. And she thinks coming here will force you to choose her." He nodded again. I took a slow breath, the situation snapping into sharp focus. "She's not just obsessed," I said. "She's armed." His eyes widened. "With what?" "With evidence," I whispered. "With leverage. With pieces of your worst decisions." He scraped his hands down his face. "I don't know how to stop her." "You already made the mistake," I said. Now we're dealing with the consequences. He looked at me desperately. Just tell me what to do. Outside, something shifted. A slow, faint tapping. Not on the door this time, on the window. My blood ran cold. I turned my head toward the sound. Tap, 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 he whispered. She wouldn't. She would, I whispered. And she is. The tapping stopped. Silence swallowed the room. She's circling the house, I said calmly. He stood so quickly, he nearly tripped over the coffee table. We need to call. No, I said firmly. Not yet. Because before anything else, I need the truth. I told you everything, he insisted. I stepped closer, my eyes locked on his. No, you told me what she threatened. Now, tell me what you did that made her believe she owns you. He froze. That hesitation, that microsecond of panic, told me everything. There's something else, I said. Isn't there? His voice dropped to a thin whisper. She wasn't the only one who recorded. My heart skipped. I blinked slowly. You recorded her? He shook his head violently. No, I recorded us. Once. Just once. And I didn't tell her. A chill tore through me, recording without consent. A secret he never meant to keep. A weapon she could destroy him with, if she ever found out. My voice lowered, steady and lethal. Does she know? He swallowed hard. Yes. I stiffened. She found it, he whispered. On my phone. A pause. A breath. A realization that hit like a punch. That's why she has power over you, I whispered. He nodded. She told me, he said, that if I didn't choose her, she wouldn't just send her videos. He lifted his terrified eyes to mine. She said she'd send mine too. And before I could process that, the front door handle turned. Slow, deliberate, testing. She wasn't knocking anymore. She was trying to come in. The doorknob turned a second time, slow enough to send a shock down my spine. He stumbled backward, like the air had been ripped out of him. She's trying to get in, he whispered. No, I said quietly, stepping toward the hallway. She's trying to see how far she can push. The metal clicked softly as the handle moved again. I lifted a hand, signaling him not to make a sound. The house felt too small. The silence too loud. Even the shadows on the walls seemed to lean in, watching. Then, stillness. The handle stopped moving, but the danger didn't leave. It simply shifted. I heard footsteps. Soft, slow, walking along the porch, then fading toward the side of the house. He pressed a shaking hand against his mouth. She's going to the windows. I didn't respond. My mind was already calculating. Her intentions, her next move, her breaking point. She won't leave until she gets what she wants, I said. He sank onto the couch, burying his face in his hands. What does she want? He murmured. I stared at the window, the blinds trembling slightly from the cold breeze outside. She wants control, I said. Of you. Of the narrative, of the fear. He looked up slowly, eyes swollen with regret. I never meant for her to matter. She doesn't matter, I said. But your choices gave her power. A sudden, sharp clang hit the back door, like something metal tapped against it. He jumped. What was that? I didn't move. She's checking every entry point. He ran a trembling hand through his hair. What if she comes inside? I turned and looked at him. Really looked at him. The man I once trusted with everything, now shaking because of a woman he never had the courage to walk away from. Then we deal with it, I said. He stared at me, confused by my calmness. I wasn't calm, I was controlled. And there's a difference. Why aren't you panicking? He whispered. Because one of us has to stay clear, I replied, and it clearly won't be you. He clenched his jaw, shame cutting through him. I'm sorry. This isn't the time for apologies, I said. Save them for when we survive this. Another sound, this time behind the curtains of the living room. A soft thud, a faint drag, like a hand sliding across the glass. He whispered, She's right there. Then don't move, I said. We stood in silence. Seconds stretched like hours. Then my phone vibrated on the table, a single notification lighting the screen. His eyes widened. Don't check it. I picked it up anyway. One message, from an unknown number. You should open the door. I need to talk to both of you. A chill ran down my arms. He covered his mouth. She has your number, not just mine, I said slowly. Look at the last part. Under the text was an attachment. A thumbnail, a video file. My stomach dropped. He whispered, "She sent something?" I tapped the screen. My thumb hovered over the video, but I didn't open it. Not yet. It's not what she wants to show me, I murmured. It's what she wants you to panic over. He shook his head. You don't understand. If she sends that. I do understand, I said sharply. She's using fear as currency. He grabbed the arm of the couch, shaking. Please, don't open it. I locked the phone and set it down. I'm not giving her the satisfaction, I said. He exhaled shakily. Another message appeared instantly. Same number. I saw you pick up the phone. My heart stopped for a moment. He whispered, horrified. She's watching us. She was. Somewhere outside. Eyes on us. Waiting. I turned toward the window. If she wants a reaction, I said quietly. She's about to get one she never planned for. He swallowed. What are you going to do? I stepped away from the window, picking up his phone from the table. Something you never had the courage to do, I said. He stared at me, confused, terrified. I opened his messages, found her thread, scrolled past hundreds of unread, frantic texts, and then I typed 3 words. Not for her. For him. For the first time tonight, my voice didn't shake. It ends now. The moment I pressed sent a shadow past across the window, and then a woman's voice, eerily calm, floated from outside. If that's your choice, then I guess it's time you both see everything. I froze. Because standing in front of me wasn't just her, it was her, carrying my husband's jacket in her hands. She smiled at me like she had been waiting for this exact moment. Looks familiar? She asked softly. My heart dropped. Why do you have that? She stepped closer, her heels clicking on the marble floor like a countdown. You're not the only one he leaves clues for, she whispered. I wanted to scream, cry, run, but my legs were rooted to the ground. Instead, I forced myself to breathe. Stop playing games, what do you want? Her smile faded. I want the truth to stop hurting people like you. Before I could respond, she placed a small envelope on the table I had been cleaning, a thick, sealed envelope, with my husband's handwriting on the front. For when you're ready, she murmured. Then she walked away. Not slowly, not dramatically, just confidently. Like someone who had already changed my entire life and didn't need to look back. I stared at the envelope, terrified of what it held. A confession? A goodbye? Proof of something I didn't want to know? I didn't open it. Not yet. I needed time. Just a single moment to breathe, but time didn't wait. My phone buzzed. A message from my husband. Are you home? I need to talk to you immediately. My fingers trembled. He never texted like that, never sounded afraid, never sounded like he was hiding something this heavy. Another message came instantly. Please don't jump to conclusions. I'm on my way. What conclusions? What did he think I'd found out? What did he know I didn't? My mind spiraled. Was this about the woman? The jacket? The envelope? Or was this something bigger? Something he had been hiding for months? The house suddenly felt too quiet, too still. I felt the walls closing in, suffocating me with unspoken truths. I picked up the envelope. Just touching it made my chest tighten. The doorbell rang. I almost dropped it. I opened the door, and there he was, my husband. Breathless, eyes red, hair messy from running his hands through it. He looked like a man carrying a storm inside him. Where is it? He asked urgently. What? I whispered. He stepped past me, scanning the room like he expected someone to jump out. Then his eyes landed on the envelope in my hand. His entire face went pale. No, he whispered. You weren't supposed to see that yet. Yet. He took a step toward me, but I backed away. What's inside? I asked, barely recognizing my own voice. He swallowed hard. I was going to tell you tonight, but now, everything is different. His voice cracked. He wasn't angry. He wasn't defensive. He was scared. Terrified. Please, he whispered, put the envelope down. Let me explain first. I held the envelope tightly. For the first time in our marriage, I wasn't sure if I could trust the man standing in front of me. I didn't. Put the envelope down. Instead, I held it tighter, as if it were the last piece of truth I had left. He noticed, and panic flashed in his eyes. "Please," he whispered, stepping closer. "Let me tell you before you open it." I took a small step back. "Tell me what exactly?" He ran a shaking hand through his hair. "I never wanted you to get dragged into this. I thought I could protect you." "Protect me? From what? Him?" "Stop going in circles," I said sharply. "Tell me the truth." He hesitated. Then he sank onto the sofa, burying his face in his hands, like the weight of the world was crushing him. "I made a mistake," he said finally. "A mistake months ago. And I've been trying to fix it ever since." The air left my lungs. "Another woman?" I asked quietly. His head snapped up. "No. God, no. It's not like that." I didn't believe him, not completely. "Then why did she have your jacket?" I asked. He closed his eyes. "Because she found me. Because she knows what I've been trying to hide." That answer only made everything worse. "Hide what?" He stood abruptly, pacing frantically across the room. "There's something you don't know about me," he said, voice shaking. "And she knows it. She's been following me to force the truth out. That envelope." He pointed at it like it was a ticking bomb. "That envelope is what she wants you to see. And if you open it without hearing me first, you'll think the worst." I stared at him, my heartbeat pounding in my ears. "Why should I trust you?" I asked softly. He froze. The silence between us was painful, the kind that breaks something invisible. "You shouldn't," he said finally. "Not until you know everything." He walked toward me, slowly, like approaching a frightened animal. His voice dropped to a whisper. "But please, let me explain before you read that." I hesitated. Then, slowly, I sat down. The envelope still in my hand, but unopened. "Talk," I said. He took a deep breath, and then another, like he was preparing himself for something painful. "It started with my job," he said. "I was approached by someone powerful. They wanted access to confidential data. I refused." He paused. "And that's when the threats began." My blood ran cold. "Threats?" I whispered. He nodded. "They said if I didn't cooperate, they'd ruin everything. My reputation, my career. And eventually, they dragged you into it." "So you kept all this from me?" I demanded. "I was trying to protect you," he shouted, then immediately softened. "I didn't want you to get hurt. I've been meeting people, moving information, hiding things to keep us safe." My head spun. This was too much, too big, too dangerous. "And the woman?" I asked. "She's not my enemy," he said quietly. "She's a whistleblower. She's been trying to expose them and force me to choose a side." I stared at him. "And the envelope?" He sighed. "That is the evidence she gathered. Proof of what they're planning, and proof of how deep I'm already involved." My heart stopped. "So what am I supposed to do?" I whispered. He looked at me with eyes full of fear. "Decide," he said, "whether you open it or trust me enough to burn it." I stared at the envelope like it was alive, like it was breathing, whispering, waiting to explode. He wanted me to burn it, but something inside me refused. I stood up slowly. "Before I choose anything," I said, "I need to know one thing." He swallowed. "What?" I stepped closer, my voice steady but shaking on the inside. "Were you ever going to tell me this? Or were you planning to keep lying until everything fell apart?" He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. That silence was my answer. My heart cracked, not loudly, but quietly, like glass under pressure, finally giving way. "I loved you," I whispered, "and I trusted you with everything." He moved toward me, desperate. "Please, don't say it like it's over. I didn't want you in danger." "You put me in danger by hiding the truth," I said. "And that's what hurts the most." He froze, as if the room suddenly turned cold. Then my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. If you're reading this, he hasn't told you everything. I looked up at him slowly. He paled. What else? I whispered. What else haven't you told me? He shook his head, panic rising again. She's lying. She wants control. She wants you to turn against me. But the message continued coming. One after another. Photos, documents, chats, screenshots. And then, a video. I opened it. My breath left my body. It was him, standing with a group of men in a dimly lit parking lot. Talking, exchanging something. Documents, hard drives, money. He looked scared. But he also looked like he knew exactly what he was doing. I pressed play again. He couldn't deny it. He stepped back in horror as the video played from my screen. It's not what it looks like, he shouted. It was the only way to protect us. You said you refused, I said coldly. You said you didn't cooperate. I didn't, he insisted. That meeting, I was trying to mislead them, stall them, buy time, but I had heard enough lies to know when one was being born. I held up the envelope. This has the real truth, I said. Everything. Every angle, every version, every lie. He dropped to his knees. I'm begging you, he whispered. Don't open it, please. If you do, you'll never see me the same way again. A tear slid down his cheek. For a moment, a tiny moment, my chest tightened. But then I realized something. I already didn't see him the same way. I opened the envelope, slowly, deliberately, fearlessly. He gasped like I had stabbed him. Inside were documents explaining everything. The corruption, the deals, the threats, and finally, his signature on a cooperation agreement. He had agreed. He had worked with them. He had lied. He had pulled me into this with his silence. I looked at him one last time. It's over, I whispered. His face crumbled. Please, don't walk away, he choked. Out. I was trying to save you. I shook my head. You can't save someone you're destroying. I walked to the door. My legs were shaking. My throat was tight. But my heart, for the first time in months, felt awake. At the door, I turned back. This whole time, I thought the danger was out there, I said softly. But the real danger was loving someone who hid the truth. He broke down, and I walked out. Not because I stopped loving him, but because I finally started loving myself. Sometimes the truth doesn't set you free gently. Sometimes it rips you open, breaks you apart, and forces you to rebuild from ashes. But in that destruction, there is clarity. And in clarity, there is rebirth. You don't grow by holding on. You grow by walking away from what was never honest enough to deserve you. And when the truth finally burned everything down, I realized I wasn't losing a love, I was reclaiming my life. I took a deep breath, stepped forward, and chose myself finally, fiercely, and without regret. And that was my story. Thank you so much for watching this story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more powerful life stories. Your support means everything, and it helps this channel grow. See you in the next one. The moment she realized I had canceled her credit cards, the bag slipped from her hands, and her rage hit me like an explosion. She looked at me with a fury that didn't belong to a mother-in-law, but to someone protecting a secret far darker than shopping. And that's when I understood my husband's mistakes weren't mistakes at all. They were warnings I had ignored. If you're ready for the truth behind that explosion, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe before the story gets even darker. The silence after the explosion was worse than the scream. The shopping bags lay scattered across the hallway tiles, spilling clothes and boxes like the aftermath of a robbery. Linda didn't move to pick them up. She didn't blink. She only stared at me, breathing hard, as if I had just ripped something sacred from her hands. You, she said, her finger trembling in my direction, have no idea what you've done. I tightened my grip on the canceled credit cards. I had every right. Those cards were connected to my husband's account, our account. Her laugh sliced through the air, sharp enough to make me flinch. Your account? She repeated. Oh, sweetheart, nothing in that man's life belongs to you. Not even his mess. Her words didn't just sting, they stabbed. I stepped back, not out of fear, but because her energy felt wrong, heavy, dangerous. She moved closer, slow and deliberate, like every step was a warning. "You think canceling these cards will fix anything?" she whispered. "Do you really think money is what I was spending?" My breath hitched. "What were you spending then?" She smirked, an expression too calm for the fury in her eyes. "I was buying silence." My stomach dropped. Silence? For what? She circled me like a detective circling a guilty suspect, except I wasn't the one hiding a crime. "Did you actually believe he was just forgetful?" she continued. "Or did you choose to ignore it because the truth scares you more than the lies?" I felt heat rise to my face. "What truth?" She stopped, dead still, then leaned in so close I felt the warmth of her breath against my cheek. "The truth," she murmured, "that your husband made a mistake so big, so irreversible, that even I had to step in and clean it up." My knees almost buckled. "Clean what up? Why didn't Daniel tell me?" She pulled back with a shrug that held the weight of something enormous. "Because he knew you would leave him." Then, after a beat, "And honestly, you still might." The hallway felt colder, smaller, like the walls were inching inward, listening. "Tell me what he did," I demanded. My voice shook, but my resolve didn't. Linda softened, not kindly, but eerily. A sadness flickered in her eyes for a breath, then vanished like a shadow running from the sun. "You're not ready," she whispered. "And when you are, it won't be me who tells you. It'll be him." My heart thudded painfully in my chest. "What do you mean?" She grabbed one of the fallen bags, emptied it on the floor, and held up a small, folded piece of paper I hadn't seen before. "This," she said, placing it in my hand, "was supposed to be my next purchase." I unfolded it. My blood turned to ice. But before I could speak, she touched my wrist gently. Too gently. "Ask your husband about that," she said. "Then decide if you still want to stay." And just like that, she stepped over the mess, out the door, and disappeared without another word, leaving me in the center of my hallway, staring at the paper, with a truth I wasn't ready for. The moment my husband walked in and saw that paper in my hand, his face drained of color, as if the past he buried had suddenly dug itself back up. I didn't hear the door open. I didn't hear the keys drop. I didn't hear my husband call my name. All I heard was the pounding in my ears as I stared at the folded paper, the one Linda had placed in my hand like a curse. My fingers were stiff, cold, unmoving. It didn't feel like paper anymore. It felt like a countdown. When Daniel finally stepped into the hallway, he froze, his eyes locked instantly on the mess, the scattered shopping bags, the empty boxes, the credit cards, the paper in my hand. And his face. His face changed so fast it frightened me. All the color drained out. His jaw clenched. His chest rose in a sharp inhale he couldn't hide. "Where did you get that?" he whispered. Not, "What is that?" Not, "Why are you upset?" Not even, "What happened?" Just that one question. A guilty man's question. My voice cracked. "Your mother gave it to me." Something shattered behind his eyes. Fear. Real, raw fear. He stepped closer fast. Too fast. Reaching for the paper. But I pulled back, pressing it against my chest like a shield. "Don't!" I said hoarsely. "Do not touch me. Not right now." He stopped, hands hovering in midair, breathing uneven. "Sarah? You weren't supposed to see that." That sentence was a blade. I steadied myself, even as my legs trembled. "Why, Daniel?" I whispered. "What are you hiding from me?" He didn't answer. Not immediately. He looked everywhere except at me, at the walls, the floor, the ceiling, like searching for a version of reality where this moment wasn't happening. "Daniel," I pressed, voice fragile but firm. "Your mother said you made a mistake so big she had to clean it up. She said you owed her. She said you begged for her help." He shut his eyes tight, pained. "I didn't beg," he muttered. God, I don't even know how to explain this to you." "Then start," I said, tears burning behind my eyes. Because all I know is she was using your card like it was hers, and she acted like she owned your secrets. He looked at the paper again, and this time, his throat worked as he swallowed. Hard. I thought I fixed it, he whispered. I thought it was over. What was over? He raked a shaky hand through his hair. It's complicated. Then uncomplicate it for me. My voice cracked but didn't break. I'm your wife, Daniel, and I deserve to know. He moved to sit against the wall, sliding down slowly until he was on the floor, head in his hands, breathing like he was suffocating. I watched him for a moment. I had seen him sad. I had seen him stressed. But this? This was guilt, and fear, and dread, all braided together. Do you remember the night I said I was working late? He finally asked, voice barely audible. I felt something inside me shift. Yes, I said cautiously. I remember. He looked up at me. His eyes were red. That was the night everything went wrong. My heart stuttered. What did you do? My voice was barely a whisper now. He didn't blink, didn't breathe. Instead, he said the most terrifying words I could have imagined in that moment. Before I tell you, I need you to promise me you won't leave. My stomach dropped like a stone. Daniel, I whispered, what did you do that would make me leave? He reached a trembling hand out toward me, but didn't dare touch me. It wasn't supposed to involve you, he said. None of this was supposed to touch you. His voice broke. But now it's too late. He finally unfolded the paper himself, stared at it like it was a death sentence, and said 7 words that made my entire world tilt. This is the night everything fell apart.